This week's edition of Church Media Design TV is sponsored by the Playback Drive. Welcome to another edition of Church Media Design TV, tips, tricks, and how-to for you, the Church Media Designer. I'm your host, Brad Zimmerman, and I'm joined every week by my favorite bobbleheaded friends. You got it right. We got Jamie and Adam from the Mythbusters, we got Dwight Schrute, the King of the Office, we got Little Whitey, and of course, Jesus Christ, the Son of the Lord Most High. Well, on this week's edition of Church Media Design TV, we're going to be talking with Dan Stevers, who produces some awesome motion graphics, and finding out how he got started and what inspires him and the tools that he uses along the way, as well as he's going to kind of reveal a few of his secrets of places to find great music and all that kind of stuff. So I think you guys will really grab a lot from this interview, as well as we're going to have some great inspiration, and the stockpile is chock full of great stuff. So if my favorite bobbleheaded friends are ready, let's get into it. Well, this week's news is a brand new piece of presentation software that just got announced, and I thought you guys would find this interesting. It takes a whole new twist on presentation software, and that is it's presentation software from the cloud. Now, this is called Proclaim, and you can find it at their website, and there's a great presentation video here that kind of walks you through what it is, but the basic idea of the software is, why only have this located in one space and at one time? Why not have this reside online so that whenever you change something in one place, it changes it everywhere else? So it says it runs on Mac and PC. I have no idea what the desktop environment is, but I'm really excited to check this out. So make sure you head over to their website, check this out, and see if it's something you're interested in, and you can sign up for their mailing list to find out more. Well, let's reach into the stockpile and grab some great resources for you and your church. And the first one comes from a site that's newer to me, and it's called designerterminal.com. And they have a ton of great articles that are, roundups of tons of different resources, whether it be wallpapers or graphics or Photoshop files. But this is the top 50 best free fonts, and let's check out this list because there's some awesome fonts in this list. So you have Lobster, which is one of my favorite new fonts, but as we just kind of scroll through, you'll see a lot of them are really quality fonts that you could use on tons of different projects, and really can help your design have a better look, just getting a good font behind it. Now, they do recommend taking a look at the license before you download them, because some of it's not good for commercial use. It's only good for personal use, which I don't even understand what personal use is these days, but apparently it still exists. The next one is from Hongkite. I'm not really sure how to say it, hongkite.com. And this is the 15 first-rate Photoshop brush sites you should know. And so if we look in through here, these are just great sites to find free Photoshop brushes from, Brush Lovers to Photoshop Mosaic and Roadmap, and all these different sites have great brushes that you can use to, give a new style to something, to texturize something inside Photoshop. So if you're looking for some great brushes, or, every once in a while you go to a project and you're like, man, I need a brush for this, but I don't know where to find it. You want a cloud brush or something like that. This is a great site to go find a list of all of the great brush sites out there. Now, our last site for today's stockpile is for VJs out there. Now, it's not necessarily for church VJs, but this was brought up by a viewer and reminded me of this site, and I actually followed this on Vimeo, and it's Beeple. Now, Beeple, his VJ clips here, free source material for VJs and creative professionals. Now, he uses Cinema 4D for a lot of this work, but you can download any of these clips. Now, a lot of them aren't loops necessarily. Some of them are, so we can check out like this line clip here, and it's just, 10 seconds long, and we can, see how it kind of goes one way across the screen and the other way. And so if you were doing, maybe a performance piece or something like that, this could be a great clip for you to use. in the midst of that. So there's a lot of different clips on there, as well as if you go to his website, which is beeple-crap.com/resources. You can find all of the resources, you can find all these clips, as well as some Cinema 4D files that you can download. So there's a ton of great stuff there. So check out Beeple, Honkite, and Designer Terminal for your stockpile. Well, before we move on, let's say thank you to our sponsor of the Playback Drive. Now, if you don't know what the Playback Drive is, it is the best place to get started with visual worship. Now, over on their website, you can find out it's a plug-and-play visual worship library, and it's chucked full of over 320 stills to standard definition, high definition, and even triple wide videos. It works on both Mac and PC, and it works in programs like PowerPoint, Pro Presenter, Pro Video Player, Keynote, Easy Worship, and Media Shout, just to name a few. Now, this drive has everything you need, and you can actually even put even more media on it, so you can turn this into your media drive that you use for visual worship. So if you buy new clips, if you download any of mine or anything like that, you can just keep adding them to this portfolio. And on their site, you can see that you get over $2,000 worth of content for only $2.99. You get 75 standard definition and high definition videos, 50 triple wide videos, and 120 stills. So I think this is a great value. So if you're wanting to get started or even kick started with visual worship, I encourage you to go check out theplaybackdrive.com. Well, this week we're joined by Dan Stevers from danstevers.com and the Journey Church, and you maybe have seen his work on Worship House Media or Vimeo or many of our inspiration segments in Morning Motion. And we're going to talk to him about his career and what he's doing and how he's doing it and all of those sorts of things. So, Dan, thanks for being here today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brad.
So, Dan, just to get us started, can you give us just a little of background about like what you do, what fills your day, and how you got started in it in the first place?
Sure, man. Yeah, I actually got started doing like church media and stuff. It was about 3 years ago. I actually just volunteered doing video work for my church. Up until that point, I'd like tinkered around with it in high school, you know, making all sorts of stupid things like lightsabers and
Yes.
you know, people exploding.
Gotta love Star Wars.
Yeah, like really thought-provoking stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, but they had a couple videos at my church, and I saw that, and I was like, you know, I think I could do something like that. So I just volunteered doing it, and yeah, it just snowballed from there. I got like great feedback from people, and I felt God like stirring something in me as I was doing it, thinking like, you know, that maybe this is something I could do for the rest of my life. So yeah, here I am now. So I graduated from school, and yeah, they offered me a job, and I've been doing it ever since. So yeah.
And so what church are you at and where are you located?
Yeah, I'm at Journey Community Church, which is in San Diego, California. It's a church of we have about 2,000 on a given weekend. And yeah, I'm pretty much the only video guy here, so I'm like the entire video production team here, which is like stressful, but you know, it's like I actually have grown to love it though, because it lets me spearhead projects from idea to execution, you know. So every video is like my own little baby. So
That's awesome. Do you have a large volunteer base that helps you with, or are you really like manning the camera and writing the scripts and doing the editing and the whole 9 yards?
Yeah, well, yeah, they're definitely volunteers. I mean, anytime we do anything with actors or something, it's always just me calling up my friends and saying, hey, I need someone to play Jesus or something, you know? So, yeah. But a lot of the times it's actually just me. A lot of times I'm pushing record on the camera, and then I'm running over and doing something on a green screen and then running back to check how it looked. And then, yeah, running around like a chicken with my head cut off a lot of the days. But yeah, you know, you do what you got to do to get it done. So.
Dan, tell us just a little bit about, the workflow that it takes for you, being the only person on your team. I know there's a lot of other people who watch this show that are the only guy. So what does that look like to actually, make a video happen? You talked about how you love being able to see it from concept to completion, but what does that entail?
Pretty much any project starts out with me. Usually I know the series that the video is going to be for. So we have a series, maybe it's about on like relationships, and usually there'll be a message title that I'll know about. And that's usually pretty much the extent like of preparation that I get, or sort of info from the pastors. So pretty much I just have that small little brief, and then from there I just get to brainstorm my own concepts. I'll pitch it to them, and then they'll say, "Hey, go for it." And yeah, so from that point, how the video takes shape is it's not a very linear process, and it never works the same. A lot of times I won't even have an idea for the video, and I'll just go listening through a bunch of different music tracks or something. And a lot of times I'll find the track before I even have the idea, and sort of the music will just kind of give me a visual or something, and I'll just kind of run with that. Sometimes I'll script it first and then find the music and then do whatever. But it's definitely not like first I'm gonna script and then I'm gonna find the music. So it's and a lot of times, as I'm working, even if I do write the script first, it's maybe like I'll write the script, I'll figure out the visuals for it, I'll start working on it, and then I'll go back, rewrite the script as I'm working on it, because maybe the visual will kind of change what I had in mind. Go back, rewrite the script. So in that sense, it's kind of nice being kind of the one-man team, because that way, I'm not trampling on other people's work or whatever. You know what I mean? Because it's just a give and take process, the whole thing. So.
Yeah, and so you talked about going back to your pastor and that kind of thing, but who do you use as like a sounding board in that process? Like, does this feel right? Is this conveying the message kind of thing? Who do you use?
Yeah, for a while there wasn't really anyone that I could talk to, so it was kind of a scary situation working on a video and not like having any feedback and then saying, "Here's the DVD. I hope people don't hate it." So,
Yes.
but now it's a little different. We actually have a creative director right now, so he's a cool guy, and so I run things past him. I'll finish the script and I'll run it to him, and he'll say, it's great, or maybe change this or change that, or maybe this isn't communicating as well as it could be, and then small tweaks or something. So it's definitely nice to have someone just to keep you in check, or sometimes it's good to have someone to just say, "Hey, this is awesome, man," because a lot of times, you're insecure about it. You're like, "I don't know if this is good," but having someone, kind of to encourage you and say, "Oh, this is awesome. Go for it, man."
Your people have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, and killed your prophets. I alone am left, and now they seek to take my life.
How long will you people waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. If Baal, follow him.
Aneni Adonai Aneni, V'yadu ha'am hazeh, Ki ata Adonai ha'Elohim.
So Dan, tell us a little bit about the tools that you use as you're going through these projects. I mean, everybody wants to know Mac or PC, but beyond that, what things help take your creativity and take your ideas and actually bring them to completion?
Ever since I started on this, pretty much After Effects has been, the end all and be all of my, production process. I use After Effects and then Final Cut to, edit it together. But I mean, there's a lot of times when, doing things in real life is a lot easier, doing it practically, as opposed to trying to, conjure something up in After Effects. I did a project we did a movie series here at our church called God at the Movies. And the idea for it was I wanted to do like King Kong, but instead of the giant gorilla, I wanted to have our giant God at the Movies logo terrorizing a city.
Okay.
And I wanted to have a bunch of planes. I want to have like a squadron of planes and have a battle with the big logo. And I was like, well, After Effects can do a lot, but it certainly has its limitations as far as like 3D goes. So I had the idea to just go to our local Michael's craft store and buy a little $10 model airplane, and so I was able to use that, put it against a green screen, and shot it with the camera, and just composited in the background and everything, and that worked out great. So I mean, as far as software goes, I mean, it's pretty important, but finding creative workarounds, finding practical ways to shoot things. I ended up using a bed sheet for one of my videos as a background. I wanted to do like a shadow puppet show, and so I figured it'd be easier to make the sheet just live and backlight it, shoot it, and then composite the puppets on top of it, as opposed to trying to make some sort of weird looking After Effects flowing sheet thing that would not be very convincing.
And settled on each of them. And everyone present was filled with the Holy Spirit and began speaking in other languages as the Holy Spirit gave them this ability. At that time, there were devout Jews from every nation living in Jerusalem, and when they heard the loud noise, everyone came running. They were bewildered to hear their own languages being spoken by the believers. They were completely amazed. "How can this be?" they exclaimed.
So what are some other creative things that you've had to do, whether it be, it's just easier to do it practically, or you've just run into something and said, I got to figure out a way around this? There have been any other projects because there's a lot of projects when you look at your work, you do a lot of visual effects. There's a lot of green screening involved. There's a lot of, it's not all the time just straight up After Effects or straight up video. There's a big combination of both. And so do you run into weird situations a lot of the times with that?
I think when you start out any project, you have to just say the sky's the limit. You can't you don't want to limit yourself to saying like, well, After Effects can't do this, or Final Cut can't do this. So I always try and just shoot for the moon when I'm brainstorming, and then at some point you have to get real about it and say, okay, can I make this work? Can I not make this work? So I mean, yeah, there's times when shooting it live is the easiest thing to do, or just finding practical options, like I said about the model airplane or the sheet or something. So.
So a lot of your work is available online, that other churches can buy it and that sort of thing. And I know a lot of people out there are saying, I'm putting the time and energy. There's sites like mine and many others that say, let's take this work that we've already put in for our own local church and let's distribute it to everyone else. And how does that play into the actual concept and creation phase when you have to worry about music royalties and all of that kind of stuff? Do you consider that, or do you make it first for the church and then say, can this work for everybody else?
Yeah, it is a tricky area. I mean, a couple years ago, I was just like, whatever, I'm just gonna like take this music off this CD and I'm just gonna Google this image, and then who cares who owns it? You know what I mean? Because I was thinking, well, I just want to make the best product that I can. And
it's easier most of the time to just pick and take that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just yank stuff off the web, man. How easy is that? So, yeah, doing it now though, making projects for the church and then also making them available for other churches. It's tricky because you can't always find exactly what you want. You know what I mean? When you're looking for stock images and stock music, I mean, there's a lot of junk stock music out there, and a lot of cheesy stock photo things that you have to go through. Yeah, it is a consideration in every project. I mean, I try to do what's best for Journey first, because they are the one that's paying me a salary, So yeah, that's my first priority, is making something that's going to be awesome for the services. It's going to fit like with the message. It's going to do the best job that it can in that particular situation. And then a lot of times, it usually only takes like a couple, little tweaks to get it ready for other churches, to make it maybe a little bit more generic, or applicable to like different scenarios. But I think that's one of the reasons why my work resonates with a lot of churches is because I do create videos that are for a particular service. It's like, I'm not making like hypothetical videos about just generic video about worship or something like that, because there's a lot of producers that have, sort of like, you can just play this video at any time in a service. It'll get people in a worshipful mindset or something. But having videos that are made for a particular service, I think it really, it's not obviously it's not going to be right for every service, but when it is right for a service, I think people get excited that they have something that's like specifically for their topic,
And I know this is a big ask, but would you be willing to share any of those resources for music and that kind of stuff of where you look for stuff? Because I know there's a lot of people who are like, I don't want to keep ripping music off CDs or stealing images online. So what are kind of some of your top places that you go looking for, especially audio, because I know that's a big request of a lot of people, and then images as well?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me about the music, and yeah, that's one of those things that it took me a long time, and I had to go through a lot of bad stock music sites to finally find something that's quality. There's two actually, one that we use, and then one that I still think is like really awesome, and I would recommend to people. The one that we use at our church is called FirstCom, and its website is firstcom.com. And the other one is I think it's called Cuegle. It's CUEGLE.com, and the music on these sites they actually use for movies. They use it for movie trailers, so it's really excellent stuff. One of the things about these sites though is that they're subscription based though, so it's not like you just go and you buy a stock music clip for $30. So it's a little more complicated. You have to pay like a yearly fee. So yeah, but I mean, if you're looking into it, I mean that's the road to go, is one of those two sites. So.
That's great. Yeah, I know a lot of times it's just like you get sick of looking through garbage. So once you find those gems of sites that are going to give you something that you don't have to like, wow, can we not keep making cheesy techno beats? Like, can somebody use a real drum set in their track for me, please?
Yeah, I know exactly. A lot of that music sounds like it was made by a guy in a little Casio keyboard, like in his basement or something. So yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and as far as other stock sites, one of the sites I use a lot for textures, when you're doing motion graphic stuff, you want to have cool textures in the background. You want to have cool textures maybe on text or something. There's a site called cgtextures.com, and man, it's just a huge library of any kind of textures, if it's wood or stone or basically anything you could need. So I use that a lot for my stuff.
Yeah, and it's really easy to navigate. That's a site that I use often, and a lot of the texture sites are kind of like, here's all of it, and this is a lot more categorized, and it's easy to see previews and all of that kind of stuff. So
yeah, totally,
definitely a great site. Well, Dan, I would love to show one more clip of some of your work. What's one of your favorite pieces that you've done over the years, or even in this past year, that you look at it and say, not only were the visuals great, but I just love the message that we were able to share in this clip.
Yeah, one of my favorite pieces that we did it this past October. It was we were doing a series on Acts, and there was a message coming up about Ananias and Sapphira, which is one of the kind of the most, it's kind of an uncomfortable story to read through, because it's about two people that kind of lie to God and to the church and get struck down dead. So when it was time to come up with a video for it, at first I was like, well, maybe I should try and like soften it with like some humor. Maybe I should just kind of try to take the edge off of it. But then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I should just take this really dark nature of this video and just run with it. So that's what I did. I did kind of like a Tim Burton inspired Nightmare Before Christmas version of Ananias and Sapphira. So
there are some stories that end with a quaint little phrase, and they lived happily ever after. But this is not one of those stories. This is the grim tale of Ananias and Sapphira. The early church had begun to flourish, and all the believers were getting along quite splendidly. They shared everything they had with one another, claiming nothing as their own. There were no needy people among them. Those who owned fields or houses sold them and brought the proceeds to the apostles as a gift. Joseph was one such man who sold a field he owned and brought the money to the apostles as an offering. And oh, what a wonderful blessing it was to everyone. All the believers were encouraged and celebrated Joseph's selfless act. Well, not everyone. A couple named Ananias and Sapphira, who were counted among the believers, saw the way Joseph was admired and grew very jealous. "He thinks he's better than us," they grumbled to each other. "We deserve that kind of attention." They dwelt on it day and night. Finally, one night, they devised a plan to sell a piece of land, secretly keeping part of the money for themselves and giving the rest to the apostles. They would not necessarily say they were giving all of the money they received from the sale. They would just let everyone assume it, and presto, they would instantly be famous as self-sacrificing believers who surrendered everything to Jesus. So, with his wife's consent, Ananias sold the land, secretly kept part of the money, and brought the remainder to the apostles. But Peter saw right through Ananias, saying, "Ananias, why have you let evil fill your heart? You lied to the Holy Spirit, and you kept some of the money for yourself. How could you do a thing like this? You weren't lying to us, but to God." As soon as Ananias heard these words, he fell to the floor dead. Everyone who heard the news was filled with fear. Then some young men got up, wrapped him in a sheet, and took him out and buried him. About 3 hours later, Sapphira came in, not knowing what had happened. Everyone nervously watched as Peter asked her, "Was this the price you and your husband received for your land?" The room fell silent. "Yes," she replied. "That was the price." Peter responded, "How could the two of you even think of conspiring to test God like this? The young men who buried your husband are just outside the door, and they will carry you out too." No sooner were the words out of his mouth than she also fell down dead. When the young men returned, they found her body. They carried her out and buried her beside her husband. By this time, the whole church, and in fact, everyone who heard of these things, had a newfound respect for God. So, unfortunately, there's no happy ending in this tale, but there is a warning here to take God very seriously. Dare I say, deadly serious.
Well, Dan, if you want to just kind of share with us where we can, follow your work and where churches can find some of this media to use, as well as, how to get in contact with you if they have more questions about, interesting little things and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you can just visit my website, danstevers.com, if you want to get a hold of me or want to check out some of my work or use it in your church. That's where you can find me. Also on Facebook, too. Not on Twitter yet. Maybe someday.
Someday, hopefully. We'll start a campaign and maybe it'll make it happen.
All right. Yeah.
Well, great. Dan, thanks so much for being here. And again, thank you so much for your heart for the church and, hearing about, even that last video, how you take Scripture and you say, what's best going to reflect Scripture and what's best going to tell these stories. And I think it's awesome to know that there's media producers out there like you that are taking the time not just to make something that looks cool or is going to sell the most copies, but is really going to share that biblical story or share the thing that needs to be shared to help people grow in their relationship with Christ or even understand who Christ is in the first place. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the coolest things to be able to use your gifts to convey the gospel and convey the beauty of Jesus and his work on the cross. So yeah, thanks, man.
Well, again, if you want to find any of Dan's work, you can head over to danstevers.com and you'll, I'm sure, see a lot of his work come through Morning Motion, Inspiration, and Inspiration in Episodes. So make sure to check out all of that stuff. Well, Well, this week's inspiration isn't necessarily something creative that was made. It was more the way that it's presented. I had seen this once before, and this was done for Niagara Falls, and they actually went out and shot 360 video and stitched all of the video together. And so they went out and shot the falls, and you could see this 360-degree view from this camera. Now that was impressive, but this takes it one step further. Imagine Google Street View with live video, and that's what this is. It is a 360-degree in all direction view of Nimmo Bay. Now you can see here it's a helicopter fishing and wildlife adventure site, and it's an interactive 360-degree video, and so I'll just show you a quick little deal. It's done by North Studio 360, which produces all of this 360-degree video content. And as we can see here, you can click and drag, and so in real time, besides that little spot there where you can actually see the camera itself, you can scan around and see all this different crazy video. Now, the unfortunate thing that we'll find out if we go down below is the original video was 5 minutes long. This was the video that I saw, and actually had to be clipped down to 30 seconds because they had 4.6 million views on their website and went through 46 terabytes of bandwidth just for this one video, which, for Google or somebody else, 46 terabytes isn't that much, but for a private company that's just trying to promote their product, that's a lot of bandwidth. So it's an amazing idea. It's really cool. I mean, I would love to see the rig, as well as actually on YouTube, you can see what this video looks like when it's unstitched inside this environment. So this is the panned out version, and you can see how there's really distorted angles and that sort of thing. So I encourage you guys to head over to the website, and you can find the link there to check this out. It's a really cool interactive demo, so be inspired. Well, thanks for tuning in to another edition of Church Media Design TV. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to do that on the website at cmd.tv/124. You can find all the show notes and links to all the videos and all of that stuff there, as well as a link to Dan's website, danstevers.com. And I would encourage you guys to go show your thanks and gratitude for what he does, and go check out some of his videos. He does phenomenal work, and I thank him again for being on the show today. If you have any questions or comments, you can get in touch with me at twitter.com/CMDTV, facebook.com/Bradley.Zimmerman, and of course you can always shoot me an email, brad@ChurchMediaDesign.tv. So thanks again for tuning in, and as for me and my favorite bobbleheaded friends, we're saying see you later.